Hey everyone, today I am taking a look at Line It, which is a 2 to 5 player card game that takes around 20 minutes to play. Now before I get started on my review of Line It, I want to give a shout out to the show's sponsor, KIENDA.co.uk, who are my go-to online retailer, and if you use the link in the show notes or the QR code, then you can get 5% off your first order. So setup for Line It is going to look like this, where you have a large deck of cards, which is made up of 100 of these numbered cards, ranging from 1 to 100, as well as 6 of these bet cards. There's going to be 4 markers, which represent jackpots, which I'll explain in a bit, the jackpot markers and the first player token. Now, the objective of this game is to try and create lines of cards, either in ascending or descending order. Now each round you're going to reveal a number of cards equal to the number of players plus 2. So this would be a 3-player game, hence why I have 5 cards. And in player order, you are going to draft a card from the center of the table. And this is the mandatory action that you have to take. So in this example, I might want to take this 98. Now, when I take a card, I can either add it into my hand, bearing in mind I have a strict limit of only 2 cards, so it's quite tight, or I can add it directly into my line like so. So in this example, I'm probably going to want to make a descending line because I'm only going to have 2 more options to go higher. So I'm going to want to go from high to low. Let's say my opponents wanted to take this one, and my other opponent wanted to take this one, and the remaining cards are going to go onto those jackpot piles matching their colours. So the yellow would go up here, and the green would go up here. Then it's going to move on to the next player, where again they will reveal 5 more cards, like so, and go again. So in this example, again, I would be the last player, but let's just say that the first player wanted to take this one, the second player took this one. In this example, it's not great for me because I'm going to have to be a big jump if I want to put it right into my line. So I might want to take this 54 and add it right into my hand rather than play it immediately. Again, the remaining cards are going to go on those piles like so. So let's explain what the bet cards do. So if you ever take a bet card, you're going to place it in your line like so, which means that I am wagering that I am probably going to try and aim for 3 more cards after this card is played. So this is quite a strong example where I'm probably going to get that done because I've got so much lenience. And if I ever get those 3 or more cards after that target, then I'm going to get some positive points. But if I ever play a bet card and I don't achieve that amount of cards, then I'm going to score negative points instead. So let's explain the jackpot. So if I ever end up playing 3 cards of the same type in my line, when I play that 3rd card, I'm going to have a look if there are any bonus cards in that section, and I'm going to take those. So this is not a good example, but if there was a blue there, I'll take that blue and add it straight into my scoring pile, and every card at the end of the game is going to be worth 1 point. So again, mandatory actions is to take a card from the row, either add it into your hand or add it into your line. Now, optional actions are to play 1 card from your hand, which in this example I don't want to do, or to complete your line. Now, that would be a really bad idea at this time because when you complete a line, you are going to take all those cards in that row, but throw 3 away, as in 3 aren't going to score, but the remaining of them are going to score. So again, you want to try and make as long as lines as possible, or do you want to try and do bigger jumps, but go for those jackpots? That's essentially what the game entails. You're just building lines until the deck runs out, and the player with the most points, as in who's got the most cards banked, 1 point for each of those, as well as any bonus tokens they've got from those bet cards. Okay, so let's share some thoughts on Line It. And this is a very light game, so there's not going to be too much to say about it. And generally speaking, you'll pick a game plan and stick to it. You'll either go from low to high, high to low, and try to get as many cards down in front of yourself as you can. Because starting and stopping lines is not going to be the most efficient because you always shave 3 off your score, which of course is not very productive. But sometimes you might be tempted to do that because of this jackpot mechanism. You know, if there is a whole bunch of, say, yellow cards built up there, you might want to say, you know what, let's take a big plunge, let's cut off a whole bunch of my options, but get that third yellow card played so I can snag all of those points. The hand management is pretty tight. Again, you only have 2 card leniency here, so sometimes you're forced to make those big plunges, but generally speaking, you'll trickle along picking up cards as you go. Now, another little touch that I do like mechanically is the fact that, you know, the 2 cards remaining do have relevance. That's generally a mechanism I like in drafting games, where not only are you trying to focus on what you want, you're slightly worried about what you're going to leave in the pool as well, because again, that's going to go straight in those bonus piles. And if your opponent, say, has 2 of those 3 that they need, then they're going to easily play that card next and grab a whole bunch of points from under you. So that's something to consider as well. So generally speaking, you know, the 2 main decisions are, do I want to keep expanding my line, getting steady points as I go, or do I want to try and grab those bonuses before somebody else does? Now, there's also that little wrinkle of those bet cards. But to be honest, I've never really found that anybody goes for those and doesn't achieve them, because they're probably not going to draft them if they are, you know, if they're coming to the end of their line. You know, if you're ascending and you're in the 90s, you're not going to play one of these. The same goes if you're descending and you're in your 10s, you're not going to play one of these either, because the chances of you completing them is very low. So I'm not going to say there are no tough decisions to be made in the game, but generally speaking, you know, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be on autopilot and just grab the next card that's closest to the card that you've played, so you don't have those big gaps. Now, interaction-wise, of course, you are going to be drafting in player order, so people might grab the cards that you want. That's going to be passive. But there is that sometimes that race to get to those bonuses before your opponents do. But that's pretty much what the interaction entails. I'm not going to say the game outstays its welcome either. It's pretty punchy. You know, it only takes around 20 to 30 minutes to play. So, you know, it's not a game that takes forever, and normally when games are quicker, I'm a bit more forgiving when it comes to, you know, being bombarded with choices from start to finish. This is kind of put your feet up, just go through the process, and sometimes even go on autopilot to take your turns. The game scales fine. To be honest, I wouldn't play this with 2 players. I think you're going to have too many options at that, because, you know, not many cards are being taken. Therefore, you're going to trickle along, increasing your lines. Whereas if you're playing with, you know, 4 or 5 players, then those gaps are going to become a lot more significant, because so many of them are being grabbed by the other players, meaning that you might want to go for those bonuses a bit more or try other options. But generally speaking, you know, it scales fine from 3 to 5, and I wouldn't really recommend it at 2. Production-wise, this is, as it looks, really very simple card game. The cards are quite a nice quality though. I believe, yeah, they are linen finished, but all the numbers are crystal clear. Nice iconography as well. No issues at all with the production, apart from the box shape is a bit awkward, because it has this kind of you know, edge here that is not straight, so it looks a bit weird on the shelf, but that is a very small nitpick. You know, it's an affordable game, it's just a card game, and the cards do what they're supposed to do. Okay, so let's share some final thoughts on Line It. And again, there's not too much to say about this one. You know, despite me really enjoying small box card games and number-driven games, this one left me feeling a little bit numb, really. It doesn't do too much in terms of tough decisions or excitement levels. Yes, there is that little polarizing mechanism of, do I extend my line or do I take those big gaps to grab those bonuses? And, you know, that can be the difference maker, but still that's going to be a slight deviation from your main strategy. I think there are better games out there that do this kind of thing. In particular, I'm thinking of a game called Ohanami. I think the drafting's stronger in that one, and that number or that pattern building, or, you know, ascending or descending numbers is a lot more tangible and a lot more restrictive in an exciting and tense way. Whereas this one, that doesn't come through too strongly, especially when you are playing with fewer players. But all in all, it's not bad. If you want something that's quite chilled and, you know, isn't going to you know, burn your brain, you want something that's going to take 20 minutes that anybody's going to kind of understand, with a small twist or two with those betting cards and the jackpots, then you could give this one a look. But sadly, I think there are so many games out there on the market. Well, not sadly, but, you know, fortunately, there are so many great games out there on the market that I don't think this one quite cuts the mustard. So that is Line It.